And Channel News Asia's Timothy Go joins me from Manila right now. Tim, there's been, again, some questions over the official death toll now standing at 4,919. That's much lower than the figures coming from the search team. So why is that? Let us understand this.
Okay, let's explain this. Every morning at the disaster control center in Tacloban, the Cadaver Recovery Task Force will report a figure, a number of bodies found the day before. These are not immediately added to the official death toll reported by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. The NDRRMC insists that they have their own system of counting dead bodies. The analyst I spoke to said the method seemed to keep changing for a reason. Listen to what he has to say.
I mean, they're changing definitions just in order to downplay the effects of a disaster that everybody in the world knows is really a very big disaster.
Well, as of now, the complicated procedure requires a disaster management staff to personally ID the cadaver before it is counted towards the total. So even though there are dozens of bodies being recovered every day, as long as they are not identified, they are not counted. So is it really that important to identify the body first when it comes to death tolls? Mr. Casiple has this to say.
Identification is not a criteria for the statistics. I would appreciate that criteria that you have to have a body count. But as I've said, you don't have to identify the body to include that in the statistics.
Tim, with the aid reaching affected areas, people starting to pick up the pieces, are there any long-term reconstruction plans by the government so far?
Well, Glenda, the Philippines is now planning reconstruction, of course, of the affected areas, but it also needs to be approved by Congress first. As for the funds, it also needs to attract them from private sector. This task can be very daunting as well. Around 1.2 million homes, hundreds of schools, hundreds of hospitals will have to be built in Tacloban alone. And if you recall, I reported the other night that city planners will also have to look at the map of Tacloban and figure out how to rebuild a city from areas not damaged by the storm surge. Meanwhile, remember the Singapore resident we talked to on this show about his mission to deliver typhoon aid for the people of his hometown in Leyte province? Well, I tracked him down in Baybay Leyte the other day to check up on his efforts, and here's his story. Jib Dogilas had a rescue plan, he first told us on Primetime Asia. Buy basic necessities and fly down to Leyte and find a way to deliver water, rice, and canned goods for his family, relatives, and people he grew up with. This aid relief operation is not organized by an NGO. It is not organized by any government agency. It was organized by one man who was on Primetime Asia with us, if you remember. Jib, this operation is bigger than what you intended it to be.
Yes, this is my third barangay that I have distributed the reliefs. So I'm so happy because there are a lot of people way back in Singapore and all over the world that support my initiative. That's why I'm so thankful with them.
So what happened? I mean, it was supposed to be a small relief operation for the people in your hometown.
I think there were during the interview there were a lot of people who were moved by my initiative, and in the end it was supported by a lot. The cash flow is unbelievable. So that's why I share everything what I have to them.
Mr. Dogilas had been doling out bags of rice and non-perishables to typhoon-affected people in this neighborhood in Baybay Leyte and beyond. As it turns out, Mr. Dogilas' family escaped Typhoon Haiyan unhurt. But instead of returning all the donated funds he collected in Singapore, he decided to put them to good use, extending all that goodwill to others who need the aid most.
Kasi yung mga tao dito, maraming walang mahanap buhay. Tapos, alam mo naman yung mga niyog namin na wala na. Puro bagsak. Kaya na ano kami na siyahan kami nga si JB na naisip niyang mag-donate ng pagkain.
Mr. Dogila says his job is far from over, with many more towns along the way with people who still need food. And as far as people here are concerned, one man's noble effort is proving to be much more efficient than any government agency. Timothy Go, Channel News Asia, Bye Leyte, Philippines.